The flashlights were going off and on rapidly. Our REM pods were lighting up like Christmas.
So here is my haunted lock-in at Waverly Hills.
I've attached the 2 EVPs. This week we are theming it paranormal investigations. Some of them also come with evidence attached.
Photos. Hey,
This is 2 Girls, 1 Ghost.
2 girls, 1 ghost. And we are your ghostesses. That is Corinne.
Hello?
I am Sabrina, and I'm going to take my top off.
Do it.
Woo!
Inappropriate.
Or appropriate, depending on what you think of us.
Well, we are here with stories that you guys have shared with us.
Mhm.
Our email is 2girls1ghostpodcast@gmail.com. So if you're listening and you're like, wait, how the heck do I submit a story? That is how you do it. And we read the paranormal encounters that you send us. And this week we are theming it paranormal investigations.
Because so many of you have gone on and done paranormal investigations, gone to haunted places, or even done an investigation of your own home, or accidentally, I mean, even like using a Ouija board kind of qualifies as some type of paranormal investigation. And my goodness, do we wish we could be doing investigations all day, every day.
What I appreciate about a lot of these stories is that some of them also come with evidence attached.
Photos, our favorite and your favorite. I feel like people love those.
I'll start with this from Adele. Pictures of a ghost, spirit from the mirror. Hello, this is Adele.
Hey.
My first story is about a spirit from a mirror. It took place at my friend's house when we were first starting our paranormal investigations. At this time, we'd only investigated a bookstore near our hometown, and stupidly, we decided that we should do some investigations in their house, something I do not recommend. I'll change their names for privacy.
I feel like you don't recommend it based on what you experienced, but some other people might recommend it based on what they've experienced.
Well, I guess we'll find out what Adele experienced.
Eek.
We had bought a bunch of equipment to use, the REM pod, a spirit box, as well as flashlights for communication. And let me preface this by saying that their house was already haunted to begin with, although they were quick to deny it. I remember 10 years ago, they'd tell me stories about a boy in a white shirt that would run around the house. And everyone had different stories about him. And over the 10 years, they would tell me these things. And so I knew that they weren't lying. Also, I trust these friends like they were my siblings. We started to try to communicate with whatever was in that house. We had a REM pod set up in the bedroom, as well as some flashlights that we would use to ask questions and try to get the yes/no responses from. And we did get some activity, and I swear at one point something actually touched my foot under the bed, which scared the shit out of me. We were doing this in my friend's bedroom, where supposedly there was a spirit in his closet. Nothing really happened, so my friend began candle scrying, which I didn't really know anything about until he told me that night.
I don't know much about that either.
Me neither. So we all began to do it. Again, stupid move, but luckily nothing happened. He then went into the bathroom to do the same thing, but this time instead of scrying with the candles, scrying in the mirror. And that is when all hell broke loose. He came out of the bathroom, holding his hand up, and told us that he was holding something's hand.
What?
And it came out of the mirror. At first, I didn't believe him, but this is not something that he would lie about, right? We then set up our equipment in the living room, and every single one of our equipment pieces was freaking out. The flashlights were going off and on rapidly. Our REM pods were lighting up like Christmas. And we eventually ended the investigation because we just didn't know what to do and what happened with the spirit in the bathroom. This was a couple years ago, and they said they haven't experienced or heard anything since, but I'm convinced there's something there.
It's still holding your friend's hand.
Well, it's so out of frame, but
I looked immediately to the talk to me hand.
We have the talk to me hand on the bookshelf. The experiences I've had in that house are not explainable. One time I was in their back room and I was blindfolded, about to start the Estes method, and I felt a huge burst of cold air go right through me. I asked if they'd opened a door, and they said no, they hadn't. And I was in this tiny little recording studio room, so it was very freaky. My advice would be to not ever do anything like this where you live, and to be cautious when doing investigations in general, because you never know what's coming through from the other side.
Yeah, that's true.
So after a few months, we had our first legit investigation at Fairfield County Infirmary in Ohio. This is one of my favorite haunted places because it's super active and the history is just insane.
We haven't talked about this one, have
No,
we?
we haven't.
Added to the list.
I've personally seen 2 shadow people peeking their head through the door. And the night that these pictures were taken, which are attached, we listened to a man through the spirit box relive his death.
Oh my gosh.
He even directed us to the room that he was in and asked for his wheelchair so that he could get away from the doctor that was coming for him. And a lot of other horrendous things happened to these patients. The pictures I will attach, one has 2 children and what seems to be a larger person holding them both. They look very frightened and they were hiding behind a chair.
Oh, this is so sad.
And then there's other photos. This is the before and after from the autopsy room. If you look at the second photo, you can see a girl's head by the door frame, as well as a dog to the right beside her. We'll insert these ones. I feel like I'm having trouble with these first ones, but the very last photo is like, I was like, holy shit. Okay, but we'll keep going. And then this next one was taken from the opposite side of the autopsy room at the same time from the video that had flashlight on and the ground flickering. And you can kind of see an apparition of what I believe to be an evil entity from the building that controls the other spirits because it's really tall. And it's apparently,
like a creeper.
Right? There is a really tall spirit that roams the halls and is believed to not be so friendly. And then these 2 pictures are of the same doorway, the first having nothing, but on the second you can see something in the left corner of the door frame, and we cannot explain what it is. We believe it's the same spirit following us that as we were taking photos, which was pretty creepy to say the least. All right, and now the last one. Lastly, the picture of the 2 kids. It's really hard to see since it's so zoomed in, but it kind of looks like they're behind the chair and you see a boy with a hat on and a girl's head right above him staring right at us. Okay, that is like not what I see. I see one single person sitting in the chair, looking away, wearing white.
Let's go one by one. So the first photos.
These are in the autopsy room. And if you look at the second photo, there's supposed to be a girl's head by the door frame as well as a dog to the right beside her.
I feel like I'm seeing like patterns of faces in so many different areas of this, but
it's hard.
That's pareidolia. It's so interesting. Remember when we did the ghost photos episode or encounters, and there was the one of like the doctor from Waverly Hills, and you and I both were like,
we couldn't see it. And everyone
was like, you idiots.
So, I still can't see it in that one.
Yeah, I still struggle with it. So we highly recommend people, in addition to sending your pictures for us idiots, zooming in or like doing a red arrow or a circle to it so we know where to
help us out,
direct our eyes. But we'll put these in the video and you can tell us again we're dumb.
Okay, and so the next one was taken opposite the autopsy room. This is supposed to show the evil entity from the building. It's really tall. I feel like I kind of see like right above the light, there's like a darkness that seems really tall and like perhaps a head shape at the top. But again, I'm like, am I looking in the right spot?
I also just love the coloring.
Okay, and then the next 2 that are red, the second one, you see something in the left corner of the door frame.
Like up top?
I don't know.
Kind of looks like a light bulb.
Maybe that is in the first.
I can't tell.
Okay, so we're struggling with these ones, but the last one I did not struggle with, though I did see something different. This is supposed to be 2 kids, or they think it's 2 kids, a girl and a boy, standing behind the chair. But I see a woman sitting in the chair wearing a white dress facing away.
I can kind of see that, but it almost looks like just the upper like torso. It looks like as if her legs are missing.
Like to me, she's sitting like this. And her arm is like, you can see her arm separate.
But her arm is like hanging through the back of the chair.
Yeah, like kind of like this, like slumped over. Like if it were taken from this angle. I don't see 2 people. I see one, but like that one seems really clear. What else could that be?
It almost looks doll-like. And the fact that Adele like witnessed with her own eyes shadow people while investigating this Fairfield asylum is also wild. Damn.
Yeah, pretty wild. That's a lot to investigate.
I'm also so curious what
photo proof
Adele's friend did in the bathroom.
Right, to like have something reach out. And also to have something reach out and not immediately go running for the hills to like reach back and touch the hand.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I think if I were brave, I'd be tempted to do that as well.
But you are brave. I'm not. So would you do it?
It depends on the vibes I was feeling.
I can't imagine a scenario where even if the vibes were good, that I would still just be continuing to stand there watching a hand come out of the mirror.
I guess it's easier to imagine it than experience it in real life.
It's very startling.
Okay. I'm actually going to read one from 2018.
Wow, one of
Early
our earliest
days.
emails, which is still shocking to me that like those didn't all just get read.
Well, because we didn't
I
do
guess we have
encounters
more than we
as
thought.
much.
Yeah, you're right.
And then there was a period of time where we were responding to every email, even if we weren't reading it on the podcast yet.
Yeah.
And then we very quickly were like, we can't keep up with this. Okay, anyway, so this is from our listener, Stacy, and it's titled Freaky Paranormal Investigation in Jacksonville, Florida. Hi, Ghost Girls. I just started listening to your podcast and I love it. I wanted to share a recent paranormal investigation that I participated in through the Jacksonville Paranormal group on Meetup. I've lived in Jacksonville, Florida for a year and a half. I've had it with the Deep South, so I'm doing the hippie thing, packing up my car, no home, no job lined up, and leaving for California this Sunday. Yes, I'm that crazy. But I have done psychic readings for clients since 2014 and recently decided to see if I have any chops in the paranormal investigation department because I wanted to offer this service as well. So I joined this group and I was already feeling pretty uneasy about the investigation just because of the pre-reading that I did that morning. Side note, before I give a personal reading or do an investigation, I connect with the person's first name or the address of the location in order to receive psychic information about that person or location so I know what I'm in for. I think that's very smart. For this case, I received a lot of information about the homeowner and what was going on in the home. And I pre-connected with a very negative male entity. It was not a ghost, but a being from another dimension. So I was already pretty scared shitless to meet it in person. Also, I did not know the other psychics and mediums in which I was meeting, which also made me nervous. So that evening, I arrived at the home in the rural area of Jacksonville, which in itself made me uneasy. I could feel the heavy regressiveness of the area, and I was a little afraid for my personal safety. Then I met the homeowners and the other people on the team, except for two, the lead investigator, Peggy, and the second lead, Charlie. And I was not dissuaded from that negative feeling. If anything, it intensified. But I decided to stay to participate in the investigation. As we began, before we knew anything about what the homeowner had experienced, I walked into the back bedroom that I was most drawn to, and I saw a fucking Confederate flag hanging on the wall. It was sloppily folded up on itself, and I'm sure the homeowner did that before we arrived. When I saw it, my stomach dropped, and I wanted to bolt. I considered leaving right then and there, but decided to set my disgust aside and stay to investigate this entity. I stayed in the room and immediately started feeling nauseous. My head started to pound. I was drawn to a small TV hanging on the wall, psychically knowing that the entity used it to scare the person who ever slept in this room. Then I looked towards the small bedroom closet, and I knew instinctively this is where the entity entered and exited this dimension, aka the closet being a portal. And I knew that I was about to face some of my darkest fears as the investigation continued. We went lights out, aka put the house in complete darkness in order to create a better space for spirit to materialize and communicate with the living. And the lead investigator, Peggy, and I went alone to the back room. In complete darkness, we entered the room and turned to face the closet. At that point, I told her what I had connected to during my pre-reading earlier that day, so that she would be prepared for what we might face. As we started using a machine for EVPs and the voice recorder, there was an otherworldly low hum that started to emanate from the closet. Peggy and I held our breath. She looked at me. "Do you hear that?" I said yes. All I wanted to do was run, but I knew that if I stayed, I could help the family that was living with this thing every day. As I gazed at the closet, I saw a shadow start to materialize. It was 5'8" with long, bony arms, claws for hands, and a triangular head with large black eyes. Pure evil radiated off of this thing.
Oh my freaking God.
I psychically protected and shielded myself way before going into this room, so I knew I was safe, but internally I was freaking the fuck out. I silently asked Archangels Michael, Ariel, and Azrael to be with us. I asked Peggy if she saw anything, and she went on to describe the exact same entity I was seeing in the dark.
No way.
I was simultaneously terrified and elated because it was a huge confirmation/validation for me. We began asking it questions, hoping to get answers on the EVP. All of a sudden, the EVP, which uses white noise from the FM radio as a medium for ghosts and entities to communicate with the living, got very loud and then stopped functioning. I got the feeling that the entity wanted to communicate with us psychically and not with the technology we were using. So after we were in silence, the entity began moving back into the closet. Peggy and I saw its right arm move and point toward us. My heart went into overdrive and I began to hyperventilate. Luckily, the entity stayed in the closet/portal and did not come towards us. But I could feel it psychically trying to connect with me because I had channeled it in the past, but I wouldn't let it in. At that point, I told Peggy what it was trying to do and that I needed to leave the room. Thank goodness it did not follow me, and I needed to escape. So I went to go hang out with the other ghosts in the home. One was a pastor and one was the deceased teen daughter of the homeowner, just to feel normal and shake the evil entity that I had come face to face with that evening. I've since left that meetup group because of my upcoming move to California, but I've been curious about what Peggy recorded while we were in the room. But to be honest, I'm also perfectly fine not knowing. The experience was enough. Thanks for being such cool women and for your podcast. I am now a devoted fan. Love and light, Stacy.
I understand it being such a scary experience that you're like, well, I don't want even more confirmation about how much scarier it could be on top of this already horrifying, potentially traumatizing event. But I know myself, and I know that I wouldn't be able to not know what was recorded.
Right. Well, I'm also so curious because this is like not a typical investigation in the ways that we've done it, right? Where this is
so much psychic mediumship happening.
And it's also a family reached out to this group being like, hey, we're experiencing something. Can you help us?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious if this group went back multiple times, if they were able to rid the home of the evil entity. Yeah. I feel like there's a cliffhanger here.
There is a cliffhanger.
What next?
But like there is a cliffhanger for Stacy too. Like she doesn't know what was on the recording.
Well, Stacy, I'm curious if since you've moved to California, are you offering investigations now that you're there?
Yeah.
Where are you now? It's 2025.
No, it's 2018.
Yeah.
Are you still in Cali?
We'll follow up.
This is called My Newly Haunted Home, an Overnight Investigation with Clips.
Yes.
Hello, ladies. I'm Nicole from New Jersey.
Sup?
I recently started your podcast back in November. I found y'all through one of the other podcasts that I listened to. And yes, I did start at episode 1. But in 5 months, I'm already up to 2024 in your episodes.
Wow.
I listen at 1.5 speed. And I have a lot of free time as a bus driver and a part-time door dasher. And no, I don't listen when students are on the bus.
I wish you did so badly.
Yeah, but like on speaker, play it for all the kids.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Huge fan, and thank you for your amazing podcast. Okay, now that I've talked too much, let's get into my newly haunted house. My husband and I have lived here for almost 8 years, and my house only recently became haunted last January.
Whose fault is that, Nicole? Nicole?
My husband and I had a mutual friend, Tiny, who lived at our house for over 2 years before he got his own place like 5 minutes away. Unfortunately, Tiny passed away on January 28th, 2024.
Oh.
He was 66, and he was found in his home deceased due to health complications.
Wait, but it's haunted because of Tiny now?
I think so. He was found 2 days after his passing, actually. And I'm only giving this basic details because it is important for the end of the email.
Okay.
As what happens when someone passes, you have to clean out the house, you have to go through their possessions, etc. And let's just say a lot of his items ended up at our house. As his 20-year-old grandson, who we will call S, moved in with us a month prior to Tiny passing, all of this definitely caused some things to happen.
Wait, I do love that Tiny's grandson is living with them.
Yeah.
And that makes
they're like the landing place for Tiny and all of his relatives.
I love this. It's like a little safe space for Tiny and his family.
I know. Now, I'm semi-sensitive. I can make out shapes, but I can never tell what exactly it is. And I can sometimes hear muffled voices, but mainly I get migraines when a presence is near. I say this because for a while I never sensed anything. However, my husband and S were having some occurrences.
Maybe that's why I've been getting so many more migraines this year.
Because you're opening yourself up so much? Wow. That actually
and I moved
makes
into
so
a
much
haunted
sense.
house.
And so much of it's like aura migraines too, where
yeah,
it's
they're
like
visual.
your vision.
I literally had one yesterday, right after recording when I got home.
You might have just solved a mystery, a medical mystery. Sabrina thought she was dying. You thought you had a brain tumor.
I did.
She does not.
I'm becoming psychic.
She's just about to see ghosts.
Tapping in.
One time, my husband and I were out and S was at home alone with our 2 dogs. We get a call from S asking if we had just stopped home. And we say, no, why? And S said that he was at the computer room and he swears that he heard the door open and close. And even the dogs perked their heads up and looked down the hallway. And I told him that I would check the cameras, but nothing was on them. So he said, okay. And then he called back and asked when we were going to be home. We said, soon. Why? And he mentioned that he smelled death.
Oh.
This is the last smell he'd smelled. I told him where my sage was. And since he'd done it before, he saged the house. This also happened to my husband one time when he was alone at the house. There were multiple occurrences of this for both of them. Doors opening, dogs looking but not barking, and they really loved Tiny. The smell of death coming and going. It took almost 4 months for me to have one of these experiences. Hubby and I were in the kitchen at the table having dinner, and one of these migraines came in. I looked at the chair Tiny used to sit at, and then I looked at one of my dogs, Trixie, and Trixie pushed Tiny's chair with her nose, almost like, hey, pet me, ghost. I was like, okay, you're right. Tiny is here. And because of this, we had a local paranormal group come over and investigate our house.
Oh, so cool.
We also had a mutual friend, Elle, over who wanted to know if Tiny was still around, and the investigators went into the garage where Tiny's massive tool collection was, and 2 members mentioned that they heard a friendly, hey, over their shoulder. And they did EVP sessions in the living room, and Tiny had lived on my couch while he was here. And when the night ended, there was a review of these 2 EVPs that they caught. One is when my husband is asking a question and you can hear a response of alone. The other, I'm not sure, other than maybe it was saying it happened right before a lady, the medium on the team, talks about hearing someone say, I'm sorry, almost like, I'm sorry it happened. When my husband and Elle heard the alone, I was stunned. They are 2 big biker guys, and I've never seen them so emotional. They teared up. They said, yes, that is Tiny's voice.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Once the night was over, we did a cleanse of the house, expressing the thoughts of love and peace for Tiny. And this was mainly because I was afraid that Tiny was stuck in his death form, hence the smell.
Right.
And we just wanted him to remember the jolly biker mechanic that he was. I've attached the 2 EVPs. They did let us keep them. And if you read this, feel free to play them.
We're absolutely going to play them. But this also makes me want to so badly join a local paranormal investigative
Right,
group
we
so we
should.
can go inside of people's haunted homes and help. That's
that's
the main motive.
To help. Okay, ready? I'm going to play.
Hey, Tiny, can you tell me if you remember how you passed away?
I hear it alone. It was so clear.
Hey, Tiny, can you tell me if you remember how you passed away?
Alone.
So you understand what I'm talking about when he said, I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay? But
It sounds similar.
Yeah.
It's like a similar voice.
Alone, and then it happened. One more time.
so you understand what I'm talking about when he said, I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay? But
It's one of those things where, am I hearing it happened because that's what the listener wrote in the email? I'm curious.
Should we listen one more time and try to get it happened out of our
Yeah.
minds? Okay.
so you understand what I'm talking about when he said, I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay? But
That time, you know what I heard?
What?
I'm happy.
Jamie, is there a way to like slow it down?
Enhance it.
Zoom and enhance?
Do this in your editing software.
Right? This is how it
Right?
works.
Help us.
so you understand what I'm talking about when he said, I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay? But
I heard I'm happy.
It does. I'm happy.
I'm happy. It's one of those interesting things because it's not every day. It's almost never that you hear of someone experiencing a haunting of someone they know and that they love, and yet the smell of death accompanies them.
I know that makes it feel like he was in his form or the form in which he passed away, but I also wonder if it's almost like he chose that smell in order to make them realize it was him. I mean, we don't have answers. We don't know how it works. We don't know what it's like to be a spirit. And
No.
is there control? Is there choice? Does a smell or a image that they appear as indicate the state of being that they're in? I don't know.
Yeah. But the dogs were happy too to see
know,
Tiny.
loved. I have one with audio as well.
Great. Look
And
at us. Look at you guys sending us all this proof.
And it's about Waverly Hills.
Mm.
Okay, it's from our listener Kayla, and it is called, you mentioned a Waverly Hills episode while I was typing this email about my experience with the audio. Hello from a fellow spook-centric 30-something masshole who also resided in LA.
Hey.
I moved to Boston's unbelievably beautiful and historic Beacon Hill neighborhood in 2021.
What street?
Sadly, no spooky happenings to report here. After binging your podcast for the last month while working my boring job as a lawyer, JK, LOL, I love my job, I finally decided to write down some of my experiences. I wasn't sure where to start, but holy cow, You started talking about a Waverly Hills episode and then began telling the story of a listener's mom there. And I guess the ghost podcast gods have spoken. So here is my haunted lock-in at Waverly Hills that I did with my mother. For background, I am a Friday the 13th baby that died at birth. Long story. But I have been fascinated by the supernatural and occult my entire life. As a kid, I told people the 2 moles behind my left ear were actually a vampire bite.
So cool.
I
I
love
would have
that.
believed you.
I would too. I have 2 birthmarks right here that are like side by side.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say that that's my vampire bite.
You should.
And I told people I was haunted because Friday the 13th. Blame my father, the Stephen King buff. But I have a strong science background and I am very logical. So I've never really experienced anything firsthand. But I also think maybe it's because I have a mental block. Flashback to Thanksgiving, 2014. I'm newly graduated from college, fresh off of backpacking in Europe and Southeast Asia because who the hell knows what they want to do with their life at 21. I was a tad lost, unemployed, and visiting my mom in Indianapolis with my high school sweetheart turned college boyfriend. And we had broken up years before, so I have no idea why he was there. But he's important. So I'm going to call him Ace. While in Indianapolis, my mom says one of her friends from high school is into ghost hunting and wanted to go get locked in at Waverly Hills. And apparently her friend asked if we wanted to come. As a big fan of ghost adventures back in the day, I agreed before she could even finish her sentence. Ace rolled his eyes, adamantly expressing in his disbelief of that stuff, as he called it. But of course, as a 23-year-old staying at his ex's mom's place 10 hours from home, he was going to have to cave. So 2 days later, we were making the quick trip down to Louisville, Kentucky to meet my mom's friend, his son, and 2 friends at the local Big Boy fast food restaurant. While eating my gloriously greasy fries and chicken tenders, the crew starts laying out their gear on the plastic table, glistening in the fluorescent light. They excitedly explained all the bells and whistles they've used on their many investigations, and my mom proudly pulls out the one voice recorder we had bought earlier that day. We were set with our one piece of equipment.
You know what this reminds me of?
Us.
When we went to the Conjuring house and we're like, we have our GoPro and all the snacks. And then I turned the GoPro on and it had like melted. The battery had exploded and then we had nothing.
Snacks.
We had snacks.
We had snacks. So after a quick early evening introduction to the owner and Waverly Hills itself, we were taken inside and given a brief tour. The sun went down and we divided into 2 groups. We agreed to take a specified amount of time on each floor and ensured that the groups would be at least a full floor apart at all times so as to not confuse any paranormal activity with the other groups. We also agreed that everyone would speak at normal volumes at all time if necessary to make sure we didn't have any false hits. The night started and was relatively uneventful. First floor, second floor, third floor. Some people felt things or said they heard things, and the EMF reader went off a few times. The electricity in the building was completely cut, so there was nothing explainable to trigger it. Even so, after several hours in, Ace was even more of a skeptic. Finally, we made it to the 5th floor. Our leader, aka my mom's friend, told us the story of Mary and some history. We then moved to one of the larger side rooms, and by now, Ace was more than a little annoyed that he had been dragged to this crap and didn't want to hold any of the equipment. He seems like such a bummer. Finally, I had it. So I tell Ace to take the EMF reader, and within a minute, it starts going off aggressively. He paused, while the rest of us lit up excited. I told him he was too close to us and that he should go to the other end of the room with the EMF reader and the recorder.
All alone. Separate Ace.
And Ace resisted at first. I wonder why. But hey, I can be persuasive. So Ace walks away, and we talk to the ghost as if normal, as agreed. During this time, the EMF reader continued to go off a good amount as we teased Ace incessantly, and he became a bit uneasy. You can hear us talking far away, and Ace say, in one of the clips. I was telling the ghost that Ace wanted to talk to them. Finally, after asking several questions with no reply on the EMF, we asked the spirit to beep once if it wanted us to leave. It beeped once. We said, thank you, and noped out of there.
Good. Respect the boundaries set by the spirits.
Nothing crazy. Ace said that was weird, but he kind of laughed it off. Then we went down to the 4th floor landing. When we got there, I asked everyone to stop. We should listen to the audio to see if we caught anything. As we replayed the audio, where Ace was standing at least 15 feet from us in the corner of an isolated room with no electricity, we heard it. I'm not going to say what they heard so that we can listen to it and hear it ourselves and determine, but we hear it twice, the same voice, spaced out by 10 or so seconds. It did not sound anything like the father and son in our group, who were a 60-plus-year-old and an 18-year-old, who were standing right next to my mom and me the entire time, 15 feet away from the recorder. Should we listen to it and then I'll read the rest of it?
Yeah.
Okay. There's, I think, 2 recordings. Did you hear it?
Wait.
It's at the very end. What does it say?
Get out.
Right.
Oh.
Right before it says leave with the EMF reader. Okay, wait, one more. That's even more clear.
That was so damn clear.
Let's listen again.
That's wild because that feels like it's like I'd be like, oh, that's someone in the group. Someone in the group is fucking with us. Someone in the group keeps whispering, get out.
Okay, so picture this. So Ace is here. This is my long hallway, this little area.
Yeah.
Ace is over here. Kayla, her mom, the dad, and the son are all over here, 15 feet away. You hear in the beginning of the recording, we'll play it again, Ace say, uh-huh. And then you hear come like some like sound behind. And then you hear closer than Ace's uh-huh.
Like it's
almost like inside the recorder.
if this hadn't happened specifically the way that it had, and they were just walking around all together as a group, and then you heard this back, I would have been like, yeah, someone like
Whispered in there.
whispered it, like when someone wasn't looking, like leaned down and said, get out. But they're watching him. He's so far away from them.
I'm going to play it again. They're both
And it
clear, but this
overlaps
one.
with other
Yeah.
sounds.
All right, so Ace in the very beginning says, uh-huh. It's so clear. Oh.
Okay, can I ask a question? Since this is
Sure.
at Waverly Hills, and I know this is not something you're going to be able to answer.
No.
But this is at Waverly Hills.
Mhm.
Waverly Hills is said to have this other entity called the Creeper that all
Yep.
the spirits at Waverly Hills are afraid of, and that they often warn other groups of living human beings to run, to get out when the Creeper is near, to save themselves.
Mm.
This doesn't sound like the way that it's saying, like, get out. It doesn't sound malicious to me. It doesn't sound like, get out. Like, it sounds
Right.
like a, get out. Get out. Like a, it's time. Like, get out.
It does.
Do you think the Creeper's coming?
I don't know.
Because they were told to leave, get out,
Ugh.
or the spirits just don't want them there.
I don't know. It's so creepy. Okay, so they replay this. Everyone hears it very clearly. Ace turned pale as a mother flippin' ghost. He handed me the recorder and whispered that he needed to leave. He sped walked to a smaller building on the grounds that held our things and refused to come back in for the rest of the night. I honestly would be terrified to sit outside by myself, too. Meanwhile,
That's way worse.
while Ace sat outside, I walked the death tunnel and laid on a morgue slab alone because YOLO, do people still say that? As I mentioned, I don't really feel things, but plenty of things do happen around me. We captured a few other minor things that night we still can't explain, but nothing like these EVPs. The friend had gone once before with some activity, and my mom went back once more the next year and said nothing really happened. They didn't feel or capture anything. So maybe Ace is a magnet? I can report that Ace is happily married and living in our hometown in Kansas with a girl I told him to get his shit together for because she was too good for him. Spoiler alert, he did get his shit together. And they're now expecting their first baby. I love how excited you are for him, Kayla. So sweet. Also, the next episode that I listened to is on Scotland. And my other story is from my unexpectedly haunted bachelorette party in Ireland, which you have to email us, Kayla. But anyway.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That was one of the clearest EVPs, if not the clear. That is the clearest EVP I've ever heard.
It's so clear.
We got to go to Waverly Hills.
I know. We have to go. Like when I can go anytime. I will drop everything and go. You tell me
When
when.
Noah's old enough to sleep through the night
Okay.
on his own and not rely on me.
I need to talk to Noah real quick. After this, can I have
I have conversations with him every day.
can I have 2
I'm
minutes
like,
alone with him?
so I have one last one, and this is called You Two Were a Part of My Spooky Story. And did
Ooh.
I get hanged at one of the most haunted houses in America, the Whaley House in San Diego, California.
Oh, jeez.
And maybe some more. Hee hee hee.
hee hee. Ha ha. Ghosts.
Okay. Hi, ghostesses. I would like to stay anonymous, please. So you can make up a name.
Barbara.
Barbara Babs.
Babs.
Sorry for the annoying clickbait, but I really wanted to get your attention, which is not that clickbaity because there's a lot that is happening. Hi, I'm Babs. She, her, it, that bitch.
Please call me and refer to me as that bitch
That
from
bitch.
now on.
That bitch, Babs. I'm glad we chose
Wow.
Babs because
It
Babs
works.
is
Yeah.
that bitch, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a very new listener. I discovered your podcast a week or so ago, early April, which was like literally a week ago, basically,
shit.
or 2 weeks ago.
Welcome.
I've been hooked ever since I saw you two come up on my spooky podcast search on YouTube.
Yay, you're a YouTube finder.
Mhm. I have 3 different stories. One is a spooky story, one is a quantum immortality and matrix glitch story, and the other one actually involves you two and the universe's plan to indoctrinate me into the TGOG army.
Pyramid scheme.
These stories are long, and I'm a yapper, so lock in, lovely ladies. Hopefully I can provide you with
Relax.
thrills and chills. First story. Did I get hanged at one of the most haunted houses in America? Okay, this does sound weird, but this will make sense. In 2019, my sister, a couple of her friends, and I went to San Diego, California for my sister's bachelorette party.
Fun.
And my sister and I are big into all things spooky. We're both sensitive to the universe, the paranormal realm, the metaphysical realm, and pretty much anything that would have landed us on a stake a couple hundred years ago. My mom is literally a spiritual medium. We
Whoa.
fuck with the dark and the macabre, lol.
Us too.
With that said, the activity that my sister centered her bachelor party around was touring the Whaley House in Old Town, San Diego.
Hell yeah.
Old Town is so pretty. The Whaley House is a historical landmark. It is considered one of the most haunted houses in America. What a creep. But I love the creep because now I have one of the weirdest, spookiest, most unsettling experiences that I've ever had in my excruciating 27 years that I've been on this rock. Okay, quick background. The Whaley House was built in 1857. As soon as it was erected from the depths of hell, death and negativity were wrapped into it. It was built as a home, and then it was used as a courthouse, and then they added an execution site with a gallows, and then it was a family home again. But no matter what form it took, death and despair followed close behind.
Have we ever done a full episode on it, or have we just talked
I
about
have
it
no
through
idea.
emails?
Also weird that neither of us have been.
I know.
So we go on this tour, and it's a pretty standard historical landmark tour at first glance. There are character actors, tour guides, a gift shop, reenactments, all that kind of stuff. It's different from a cheesy landmark tour in the sense that the spiritual and paranormal energy in that house is palpable. From the moment we walked through the doorway, I felt really heavy. It was almost immediate. It was like the feeling when your stomach simultaneously drops your ass and obstructs your esophagus. The only other way I can describe it is that when you're on a really tall roller coaster and it starts to go down from the highest point. I knew that this was because of the house, but I just let it go because I was very interested in why I had a physical reaction and I really wanted to walk around the house. When you go in, they have a guided tour or you can just walk around and explore everything. And we did the tour first. The tour started out pretty easy. I was still feeling really heavy, but I started to get used to the feeling about 20 minutes into the tour. Okay, so remember I mentioned the gallows? Well, at one point, the guide led us from the kitchen to the family room, and there was this huge archway between the 2 rooms. And when we passed under the archway, I and a couple of other people in this group cleared our throats. No one really thought anything of it because it was pretty random, without the knowledge that we would soon receive.
Interesting.
It would seem like just a regular bodily function, right? And mind you, unless you've done research on the layout of the house or the history in general, you wouldn't really know any of the preconceived notions about what you'll experience. But basically, the part that I'm going to bring up soon isn't common knowledge, and they don't address it until they get into the family room. The tour came to a stop in the family room, and the tour guide was talking about the photos on the wall or something. I honestly can't remember exactly what he was saying because I started to feel really short of breath.
Oh, no.
It wasn't anything that was causing an issue, but the tour guide definitely noticed. He stopped himself in the middle of a sentence and said, "Some of you felt some sort of pain or discomfort around your neck and chest when we walked under the archway, right?" We nod. I got chills, and I still currently have chills. And what he said next was, "The archway is built in the exact same spot as the gallows from the early life of this house. Right where the archway is, hundreds of people were hanged and executed."
Oh my God. Like I knew that is where it was going, but like the fact that multiple people.
Yeah, everyone's like,
Yeah.
start going through. He then ushered us into another room that had the original blueprint of the house in its many forms, including the execution site. Yep, you guessed it. He had receipts, and that is exactly where the gallows stood. So yeah, that fucked me up. And I'm not even going to lie. I don't remember much else about the tour because the goddamn archway seriously made me so uncomfortable. I do remember walking by it and feeling repelled. And I kind of jumped away from it like a jump scare, like in SpongeBob. He's just standing there menacingly. That's how I thought about the archway. Super weird, right?
Good reference for Corinne,
Yeah, thank you.
especially.
I don't know. That part of me is still confused by all of it. So we did walk around the house, and I walked around by myself for the most part. I started walking around the second floor where the bedrooms are, and that is where my next unsettling experience happened. So the bedrooms belonged to the Whaley family. Another reason why the house is so haunted is because one by one, all of the family members died somewhere in the house. And the bedrooms were creepy as it was. They have all these old-timey dolls, and they're just horrid looking.
Delightful.
So these rooms are weird. You can't enter the bedrooms. They have a clear barrier in the doorways, but you can still look inside of the rooms. And one of the rooms had this creepy old-timey doll, multiple dolls. And I took some pictures and I looked at the room for a minute or two, and then I started to feel really nauseous. I seriously wanted to vomit. I was like, dude, what the fuck? Why am I being attacked in this house? And that has to be some sort of haunting. So I had to get away from this room, right? So I was super overwhelmed. I felt nauseous, and so I found somewhere to go sit. Oddly enough, the place that I chose to sit was in another creepy-ass room. The puppet theater.
Ugh.
The puppets don't matter, though. That was just ironic. What matters is the tour guide sat down next to me and asked if I was feeling okay. And now here is a content warning for brief mention of abortion and suicide.
Oh, no. Okay. So much death in this house.
know.
Oh, my goodness.
This is the conversation that I had with the guide. Me. I'm just feeling pretty nauseous. I was just looking at the bedrooms and started to feel like I was going to throw up at the last room before you turn left. Oh yeah, that tends to happen to women, especially mothers, even more so when women have had a loss of a child in some way or another. Do you have children? Me. Nope, no children. Tour guide. Oh, okay. Well, that room was Thomas Whaley Jr.'s room. He was 18 months old when he died from scarlet fever in his room, and his death was one of the first tragedies in the home. It said that baby Thomas's death marked the beginning of the house's curse.
Oh, my God.
Me. Well, I don't have children, so I guess it's because I'm sensitive to energy. The room next to Thomas Jr.'s room is Violet's room, the Whaley's eldest daughter, and she was so badly heartbroken by her husband betraying her and revealing himself as a con man that she couldn't handle the pain. She ended her life in that room as well. That's a very sad corner of the house. Me. I can feel that. I just walked away after that. I honestly can't remember, but I remember walking away from that situation and I just felt so uneasy. I didn't say anything else to the tour guide because, well, I don't know them, obviously.
Right.
But about a year prior to this trip, I had gotten an abortion. It was one of the most painful experiences of my life. I almost bled out on my bathroom floor. It was really, really scary. And I hadn't really thought much about that for a really long time. And I guess I was suppressing it or something. But baby Thomas brought that up for me. I felt his discomfort from his fever. I felt his stomach ache that he would have had. I literally broke out in a rash on my chest, another symptom of scarlet fever. And on top of that, I've struggled with my mental health my entire life, and I have made a few attempts. And I had made one around the time of my abortion because I found out that the man I was in love with was a con man.
Oh, my God. The parallels there. I'm so sorry.
He lied.
Babs.
I know. He lied to me the entire time we were together, and then he left me when I told him about the pregnancy. So I also felt Violet's aching heart. I felt Violet's despair and uncertainty to keep going. It was startling, to be honest.
Yeah.
Once the tour guide told me that, it all came back and I needed to break from the house.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think much else happened after that. At that point, we had all explored all the different areas of the tour, so we were just kind of meandering. I just felt like I had been hanged, sick, heartbroken, and abandoned because of a very strong paranormal presence at the Whaley House in San Diego, California. Spooky.
I'm also so curious because the amount that Babs experienced in the Whaley House is a ton, which makes me wonder if it's just the Whaley House, like multiple people felt the like neck sensation,
Right.
or is it that Babs is also just like very open?
Maybe it's both too, because it's like
Yeah.
the tour guide also said that women, specifically women who have experienced child loss,
Right.
also get really strong feelings there. But there are 2 more stories.
Oh, delightful.
I've always had really weird, glitchy experiences, but like now I do. Lots of synchronicities, lots of coincidences, far too many. There's no fucking way that could have happened situations. Things going missing and appearing in the same spot that they were, like they had never been moved, thinking of someone I hadn't spoken to or thought of in years, and then suddenly I see them or I hear from them in the next few days. Stuff like that. Stuff that makes you do a double take and kind of shake your head like an Etch-a-Sketch. I moved in with my brother in Palm Springs, California. I was on my way back home to work and I brought a bunch of my stuff with me. And I have a mom car, so you can imagine I was able to fit a lot of stuff in there. Well, good. I'm glad you went from a dangerous car to
A momobile.
a pretty safe one. I had clothes, shoes, artwork, roller skates, random decor, just stuff. I got home really late and I was exhausted, so I left it in my car. I locked my car. Also, my neighborhood is super safe and I'm right around the corner from the police department. Still stupid though, don't be like me. It was maybe 2 a.m., just like when the accident was, and I needed my phone charger. I was pretty sure that my charger was in my computer bag, which is where all my other chargers were, and I was losing my mind because I could not find this one charger, the one that I needed, and it was not with the rest. So I was going through all my bags, I was emptying them out. I was just so annoyed because I knew that it was in this bag, but it wasn't there when I was looking for it. And I didn't want to go outside, but I really needed my charger. So I went to my car and I looked everywhere again, nothing, no charger. I was losing my mind. Well, I go back in the house and the charger is in the bag right on top, the cord wrapped around the wall block thing, which I didn't ever do anyway. And I was just busy when I was packing. So I literally shoved these things in a bag. I did not wrap them. Plus, I literally dumped the bag out. It was still empty from me dumping everything out. But I went back and there it was, right on top. It was just like the arch in the Whaley House. I felt it immediately, almost like it was mocking me. Like, haha, you fool. You did all that to look for me and I'm right here. Rude as hell.
Weird. Why does that happen?
I'm like, is it like a weird, glitchy simulation thing? Or is it like a spirit just touching something and then putting it back?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Anyway, I got my charger. I'm good. I woke up. I went out to my car for something. And when I opened my door, my car was empty. None of my stuff was in my car.
What?
And I know this part is no ghost story, but I don't remember locking my car when I went back inside the night before because I was just so tired after looking for my charger. So someone broke into my car, stole thousands of dollars worth of my stuff. And like I said, it was random stuff. Like they took my server book, my pendulum. And I hope they did get their karma. Anyway, the damn charger led me outside, played me, made me lose a bunch of my shit to some degenerate. Okay, and last story, but absolutely not the least. The universe's plan to indoctrinate me into the TGOG army.
Can I just say on that last story real quick? It almost makes me think, though, that the charger not being there and then appearing there was almost like a, hey, Babs, you should unpack your car.
Oh, yeah, get your shit out.
Yeah. So maybe, Babs, it was a sign that you didn't heed.
Yeah. And then they finally just give up and they're like, here's your freaking charger.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned at the beginning, I started listening to you spooky chicks very recently. I was contemplating emailing you. While I was thinking this, I was listening to episode 271, and it was the last bit of the episode, and somehow you two got on the topic of aliens.
Our favorite. My favorite.
And Corinne says, and I'm paraphrasing, we're going to give it to you straight, guys. Aliens are coming on April 8th. Well, I was listening on April 8th. So you got me. I emailed you. Are you happy? From Babs.
Well, did you get abducted? Did aliens come for you? You have had so many experiences, and I am really sorry for all that you have endured and experienced. It does sound very difficult. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing it with us.
And my God, how open are you to the paranormal too? Just be friggin' knocked around by the Whaley House.
Yeah. Wow. This type of story and paranormal investigation stories are so intriguing.
Yeah, they are.
So send us your paranormal investigation stories and your EVPs, your ghost photo evidence. Let us know if you see the spirits on these images that we show in the video. Let us know if you hear different things in the EVPs. And tell all of your friends. Tell all strangers you see, everyone in the ether, whether physical universe or not physical, about our podcast because it's Pyramid Scheme.
Tell the ghosts.
Yes.
Where to listen. Thank you to Jamie, who edits and produces the podcast. And thank you to all of you who continue to come back week after week.
We love you.
And we will see you on the other side.
Very spooky.